please talk about you? I'm not talking about you. I'm actually talking about season 4, part 1 of the series called You on Netflix. Because there's some things we need to talk about from a licensed therapist perspective about Joe that we need to get into right now. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, Keandra Jackson, licensed marriage and family therapist here. And today we are talking about the show on Netflix called You. Now listen, you know how these videos go. If you have not watched season 1, 2, and 3, you need to go ahead and press pause, go on over to Netflix, binge watch all of the seasons, and then come back because there's no way you're going to be able to understand all of the things and put it into context by just watching season 4. So let's talk about season 4, part 1 so far. Now look, I know y'all use the terms psychopath, sociopath, crazy, psychotic, deranged, all of these words to describe Joe. And trust me, if he was actually a client of mine, I'm still trying to figure out what type of diagnosis he would have because I done went through every type of personality disorder and all of the things, and I'm still trying to figure it out because as each episode goes on, we get more and more color, more and more information that keeps me switching his diagnosis from one thing to another. I have personally thought about antisocial personality disorder, some form of codependency, narcissism, all of the things. And we're not here to break down all of these psychology terms, but those are just some things that I have been personally thinking about. But knowing some of the history that they have given us about Joe, there's some extended trauma there that happened in his childhood that is the reason, probably the primary reason why he does the things that he does. And I personally believe that it is some form of personality disorder, but we still haven't pinpointed exactly what it is yet. As always, spoiler alert, you already know there are going to be spoiler alerts all up and through here. So if you have not seen it, don't get mad at me. I reveal more than I should probably be revealing. First thing I want to talk to you guys about in regards to Joe is this identity change. This man flew all the way to a completely different country, not only looking for Miriam, okay, but also had a full identity switch. This man changed his name to Jonathan Moore. He literally got a new place and a new apartment. He is essentially trying to erase his whole entire past and start over. The fact that he has a whole kid back in the US that they're not talking about, and I know he left the kid with, a friend of a friend, but the fact that he got a whole kid that hasn't been, mentioned for a while is a whole problem for me. He has changed his whole identity and completely created a whole new entire life is red flag number 1. I think the creepier part about all of this is that he really did it just to find Miriam. And I'm glad he didn't touch a braid, okay? I'm glad he didn't touch a braid on her head. And he really decided to let her go and not injure her. But he went to a completely different country just to find that girl. And when he did find her, she was scared, not scared, scared of him, okay? She went running from him. He went chasing her. Like, it was just a whole crazy situation. Joe had essentially tried to start over because his life back in the US was a lot. There's a lot of death, a lot of killing, a lot of all of the things, and he was trying to create something new. The second thing is that Joe is mad consistent and persistent. You gotta give it to him. When he puts his mind, his energy, his desire on something, he follows through. He knows how to keep his word. He knows how to be consistent. He knows how to be persistent. And he just doesn't quit. And I think that is the ongoing obsession that we enjoy about this particular show is that he is very persistent. He was persistent in finding Miriam in a completely different country. Y'all know how hard it is to find somebody where you currently live, let alone traveling all the way to a completely different country to find them? He was persistent. He is also consistent and persisting in finding the person who is doing all of the killing with his new friend group and trying to frame him and all of that stuff. He was relentless. So that's one thing about Joe is that he don't play and he follows through with what he said he gonna do. The next thing that I noticed with Joe is this ongoing battle between good versus evil. It's almost like having a little angel on one shoulder and then having the devil on another shoulder. Like, that is the ongoing dilemma that Joe continues to have throughout all of the seasons. And we have this glimpse into his life because we get to hear his commentary. We get to hear his thoughts, right? We get to hear some of the things that he's thinking as he's going through and meeting people and as he's looking through people's windows and, doing all of these things. The writer and the producers allow us to hear his thoughts, which is a really dope perspective to have. Also, like, some of his commentary be hilarious to me. I don't know if it's just me and I'm like a giggle box and I just think some of this stuff is funny, but some of the things that he says and does, like, I literally chuckle at times because he has a very interesting personality. And with this ongoing good versus evil situation, I think he is literally like grappling with integrity. He's literally grappling with, wow, I'm trying to really for real make better choices in my life. I'm letting Miriam go. People, when they're getting hijacked and mugged in the parking lot, like, I believe that he genuinely feels like he is trying to change and shift his life for the better. And I do think that he has moments where he is doing better. And it's like, okay, Joe, we see you. You didn't kill as many people this season as you did last time. There is still this ongoing urge, we're going to talk about in a second, that he continues to do over and over again. The next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is this theme that I have seen throughout season 4, part 1, where people are actually seeing Joe. Yeah, and I'm not talking about physically seeing him. I'm talking about like seeing, when somebody gets you and you're here. There were so many different examples and so many different scenarios throughout these episodes where there were people who were like, I see you. You've experienced some trauma. You've experienced a bad relationship. What is it about you, Joe? There's something about your eyes that are mysterious. What is your story? And I believe that people are actually able to see, because they say the eye is the window to the soul, right? That's what they say. I think people are actually able to see that hurt, that pain, that trauma, that killer, that psychopath in his eyes, and it's intriguing to people. And not necessarily in the most positive way, but they want to learn more about him because Joe has a very weird personality. He's kind of reserved and chill and observant, but he's just different, and even one of the girls, I remember when they had went to like the whole murder mystery, mansion place, and the girl was like, you're basically boring. Like, why am I sitting here talking to you? Like, get some excitement in your life, like have some personality. And essentially that's how he's portrayed throughout this whole season. I didn't get that weird vibe from him in the previous seasons to this extent, but it seems like for sure that, other people are able to see some of that hurt and that pain, and they're able to recognize it in him because it's a piece of them within themselves as well. That one additional thing that I want to add before I move on is that you attract what you are. Right? Like, Joe attracts these weird, psychotic people and friends because he's weird and psychotic, And so I think that, like attracts like in a number of different situations, and he's always trying to figure out how he gets put in these instances and these circumstances, but it's because it's you, Joe. You are the common denominator. You are the ongoing factor in all of these situations, and until you change, it's going to continue to be an ongoing issue. The next one is that I genuinely, truly, from the bottom of my heart, feel like Joe wants to find and he desires true love. Now, y'all might be up for debate with me on that one, but I do feel genuinely that he is on a search for true love. And I think that he desires that very heavily, but I don't think he understands and knows what that truly means. And I believe that it goes all the way back to whatever traumatic experiences he had in his childhood, because it will color and tell us that he had an attachment issue, right? Typically and primarily with a primary caregiver is when we learn how to love and be loved, and we learn safety, and we learn all of these different things. But if you had a parent or a caregiver who did not give you that, it's going to be very hard as an adult to form those relationships and to keep them healthy. It's going to be all kinds of jacked up, right? So I believe that inherently he does desire love and he does want it. And I think that that is pretty much the human existence. Like, I firmly believe that God has created us to love and be loved, right? And no matter if you're a psycho, no matter if you're a killer, a serial killer at that, you still have this innate desire to love and be loved. And I think that he's going to be on this ongoing search for that. And I don't know if he's ever going to really get it, because there's too much trauma and layers and wrong thinking and attachment issues. And he needs to go to therapy. Joe, you need to be in some extensive therapy, because you are not only jacking up your whole life, but you are jacking up everybody else around you, and even the new people that you are bringing into your life, your students and all of that. And the last thing that has been an ongoing thread throughout all of the seasons is that it feels like he doesn't like to kill people, but then at the same time, he also feels like other people make him kill them. Are you tracking me? Like, I don't think he really wants to go around killing people. I think in his weird, distorted brain and whatever type of mental health issues that he has, because we still haven't fully determined what his diagnosis is, I think that he genuinely thinks that other people make him do the bad things. And if you didn't say this, or if you didn't do this, or if you would have done something differently, I wouldn't be placed in a position where I have to end your life. And that is a very wrong, distorted thinking, because if Joe was a real person, I don't even have the words if Joe was a real person. And probably, to be honest with you, Joe is probably a real person somewhere out there doing a whole bunch of stuff like this, and we just haven't found out who he really is. I wonder if this is based on a true story, that we don't really know that it's based on a true story. But needless to say, Joe is a trip, and I am super excited to see what season 4 part 2 entails, because I just know that this is going to get juicier and juicier as each episode goes by. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my perspective from a licensed therapist perspective on Joe from the series on Netflix called You. So if you're interested in more videos like this, make sure you like, subscribe, stay connected, because we are going to be talking about all the TV shows and all of the movies from a licensed therapist perspective. So I'll see you soon.